that's kind of what I'm going to show you next. I'm going to kind of show you a little bit of interaction between the software and how you can get some better images just by using them all together in there. And what we're going to do here is we're going to analyze this image just a little bit. We're going to kind of look at it, and we're going to actually do that with Noiseware. I'm just going to press Control K and pop it over into the screen there, and I'm going to zoom into it. I'll tell you not to zoom into it, and the reason I'm going to zoom into it is because I want to show you some things a lot of people don't realize that goes on with images that they capture on there. What I did is I turned off any of the color reduction on here, okay? And we're zoomed into the pore structure of the skin. We're right around the eyes here, and we're zoomed into the pore structure here. And if you notice looking around, you see some little areas of kind of splotchy looking color on there. And one of the things that I tell people with using it, if you want to really make portraiture work better in there, is come in here and set your color noise reduction up to start it with 0 on the noise level. The noise level is how much color noise in an image you want the rest of these controls to work with. So when we set it at 0, it's not saying don't work with anything. It's saying work with the middle parameters of what color noise in there. So don't go looking for too much, and don't, not look for anything. Just kind of get what's an average of what color noise in there. And as we look here, I'm going to go side by side on it, and as we start doing a real kind of close-up comparison, you're going to see these areas with these little small tiny areas in there that's got some excess color over here where these pore structures and all is. You look over here and they're not as pronounced on this side over here. This looks a little bit more even as far as the whole overall image goes. You notice in here there's kind of some magenta, some kind of purplish looking color cast around the edges of the hairs and all. We look over here and it's not really as pronounced on there. And what that does is that makes portraiture have a better overall output, because it doesn't have to, the algorithms doesn't have to mess around with any color in there and try to get it. When you're trying to edge sharpen something, all you're doing is, when you're sharpening something, is you're just doing edge contrast. I'm going to bring it up here and I'm going to show you. I'm going to move it up there. You're just contrasting edges is all you're doing. You're just taking a dark edge, putting a kind of a lighter halo around it so it has contrast to it. And that's all sharpening is on anything. So what you do here is if you actually sharpen and you've done this technique with color removal on it, you're going to get much better output. I've exaggerated that on there a little bit. But you're going to get much better output on it on there. You're going to have more definition to everything. You're going to have less bitey pore structure coming back up in there. It's going to be much more even. So when you go back out there to a realistic look on it, it's really hard to tell right there at 100% what's going on. But when you take that image here, over here, and then you turn right around, and we're going to Control P and just bring up Portraiture, and we bring that back in there with the settings I had on there before, it's going to work better. Overall, it's not going to have that edgy color stuff that's going on, the pores all down in there. It's not going to have all that. So it's actually going to work better. So one of the tips you can do when you're doing that is use Noiseware, turn off the color, put it on 0 and then 50. I mean, turn off the luminance on it, put the color on 0 and 50, 0 on the noise level and 50 on the amount, and then run Portraiture on top of that. Now, that can be done in an action. It can be done automatically. It's not something you have to do. In fact, take it just a little bit further on the image, and we're going to run, let me back off here, and on this image here, we're going to run Portraiture, we're going to run Noiseware, and we're going to run Realgrain all at the same time on it. And what they're going to do is that when it's running, it's going to create, it's going to get rid of the color noise in the image to start with. It's going to run Portraiture on it, and then it's going to bring Realgrain in there, and Realgrain is just going to put a little kind of layer mask effect on it with a real even dusting of grain on it. And the reason behind that is that you want just a little bit of grain to be on the image to kind of give it a look. Now, I'm kind of going back here. I'm stepping back in the over here in the, and see here, this is Portraiture. I've just ran it, and I'm going to apply Realgrain to it. I'm over in my history over there. I've got a Realgrain layer effect. I'm going to show you. I'm going to bring it over so you can see it. Okay, I've taken a mask there, and I've applied a real light dusting of Realgrain to it. And what I did there was I just took the mask itself. Let me bring it back here. I've taken the mask itself and I've applied just a tiny bit of luminance grain to it. It's just very, 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 very subtle. And what that does is that in a lot of prints, it actually helps kind of even out the effect that you've done with anything in the previous. In other words, it puts back a little tiny bit of grain there, which your eyes perceive as being texture on it. So that's a real cool way of using Realgrain and Noiseware and Portraiture together. You use Noiseware to knock down the color noise in the portrait image itself, especially if you're shooting anything above the native ISO of your camera. That's a very important thing to do. If you're shooting 200, 400s, 800, 16, whatever, you should really run Noiseware on there first in color mode and get rid of it. And then go in and use Portraiture. You're going to get much better results than if you do and go try to do any kind of smooth techniques on there with color in it, because it'll kind of blend in with the image a little bit. It won't give you as good of results on there.